Welcome back. Today we're talking about Mode 1 movement. Here we have a Mode 1 ship already set up. And over here we have our target flying across the screen. And we're going to be using Tabletop mode instead of Sticks mode today to make it easier to follow. So over here we have our plotting page. This is the plotting Avid, not to be confused with the Combat Avid. So when we talk about the plotting and the Avid, we mean this one. And if we click this button down here, we go over to the vertical and horizontal plotting grids. But to show things off all at the same time, we're going to expand out this page to get everything onto the same screen. So putting our mouse right here and dragging. We'll keep going. There we go. So that's nice and big to see on the screen. And we can still see our ship here. Okay, so there's a couple things about Mode 1 movement. First, everything is done from left to right side. So first you plot your nose, then your roll, then your thrust, then your vertical side slips with these two buttons, and then your horizontal side slips with these buttons. Because if you change stuff over here, it could go all the way down the stream and reset things further down. For example, if I do max thrust, you see that our horizontal plotting grid here changes because we get half our thrust as displacement. Down here on the scoreboard, you can see that our delta is 6, so this turn we're moving 9, next turn we're moving 12. Go back down to 0, our speed is 0, we're moving 6 this turn, 6 next turn because we're not pivoting or doing anything extra. So first, Mode 1 has displacement if you do not pivot. So if you go over here and do your side slips, vertical and horizontal, and then change your orientation, this side over here changes. A common mistake some people make is they'll first do their thrust, they'll figure out their vertical and horizontal side slips. They go, okay, my ship is going to be right here. I'm going to change my attitude to that. Not realizing that because they changed their attitude, the vertical and horizontal needed to be updated, and if they can't keep the same plot, the software just goes, we don't know what you want to do, we'll just go back to the default. But if people don't double check these after they do the pivot, they'll end up someplace they're not expecting. So again, this is a step to go from left to right. Okay. As we mentioned, as you thrust, if you'll get displacement, which means you get half your current thrust applied to this turn's movement. Unless you pivot. If you pivot, you don't get it this turn, you get it next turn. The other fun fact, that as you pivot, you lose 10% of your speed, minimum of 1, or minimum of 1 speed loss. You're like going speed 0. And so you see down here at the bottom, this turn moving 6, but because we pivoted 1, 2, 3 windows, our speed next turn will be 3. So we're going to, for this turn, we're just going to pivot, let's say 3 spaces, 2 spaces that way. We'll side slip up 1. As you can see here on the map, we'll be going up 1. Our noses are changing, so our attitude's not changing. This is just that a 30-degree cone that we're doing a little bit of wiggle room in. So you can go up or down. So again, another common mistake is people think the vertical plotting grid is moving your nose up or down. It's not. It's changing where your ship's flight path. And we'll go a little bit to the right. So next turn, our speed will be 4. Let's go on more 90-degree turn. So our speed will be 3 next turn. Or do we want to go further? Yeah, we'll do 3. Okie doke. Now we'll time skip forward. Okay, we have skipped ahead to the next turn. As you can see, our ship has moved, is now at altitude 1, flying level, and our target is coming from behind. Okay, so let's say we want to pivot around to face our target. So our pivot is normally 4, but 1, 2, 3, we can only pivot 3. Why is that? That's because in mode 1, every window we pivot reduces our speed for next turn by 1, and we cannot go below 0. So as you can see here, our speed for next turn is 0, so we can't pivot anymore, even though our pivot rating on our ship sheet says 4. But if we thrust, say we'll do maximum thrust to 6, suddenly we get that extra window pivot back because we're now, our speed next turn will now be 5, so plenty of speed. Also, if you do your pivot and then you try to decrease your thrust, you can't get below 1 because you need to stay above speed 0 for next turn. As you can tell, with such a low speed, we do not get any side slip vertically, and just a little bit horizontally, mainly because we're facing a hex corner, and it's range 3, we have 2 possible choices. So if we do that, let's time skip forward. Okay, and we have time skip forward to a fun situation where our speed is now 0. Because again, we only did minimum thrust last turn, just so we have enough to pivot. So now we cannot pivot at all because our speed is 0. So we need to thrust in order to get our speed to pivot at all. So we get to a very interesting situation here, where if we thrust forward, we get half our thrust as displacement, so we can actually, do a little bit of maneuver out here. Not a lot, just a little. Unless we pivot. If we pivot, we're not going to move at all, just turn. So that's kind of a quirk of mode 1, is that if you're at speed 0, you can't pivot at all. There we go. It's a little bug in the system I need to work out. So, So at speed 0, can't pivot. As we speed up a little bit, we get our pivots back. We get a little bit of movement this turn, unless we pivot. We pivot, no movement this turn. We just get to pivot. And again, each one we pivot will reduce our speed by 10%. And so if we thrust 6, pivot 3, our speed next, or 4, let's go max, our speed next turn will be 2. And again, that's shown down here in the corner. So yeah, mode 1 has a few little quirks, but it tends to be the easiest mode to fly around in. So hopefully this video helps you make sense of how to plot in mode 1. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe to the channel. And as always, comments are welcome down below. Have a good day. I'll catch you all later.